Today we're taking a look at a really quick playing card game from Incredible Dream Studios. That is Kinfire Delve, Vainglory's Grotto. This is the first in this series. There's 3 of them now. I picked this up at Gen Con. Really excited to check it out. So first, I'm going to give you an overview of the game, show you how it plays solo. Then I'll come back and share with you some of my thoughts. Let's take a look at Kinfire Delve, Vainglory's Grotto. Okay, here we have a game of Kinfire Delve Vainglory's Grotto set up and ready to go. This is a card game. You can see it does not take up a lot of space at all on the table. And what we are trying to do is get to the bottom of this well. This deck of cards is the well. Once we get to the bottom of the well, we will have kind of a big bad that comes out here in the middle. It'll have cards surrounding it. You'll try and defeat that. And if you are able to defeat the big bad, you win the game. There are 2 different characters that you can play as in this box. I've got Core set up here. I think he works just a little bit better for solo play, but the game also comes with another character, and that is Asha of Brillbrook. So you will take one of these characters and their 18 card deck and their lantern. And what you will do is, if you are playing as one player, you will take 8 cards, and that'll be the starting cards for your hand. So you can see here, I'm just drawing these cards out right now to 5, 6, 7, 8. All of these cards have a border on them that relates to basically which type of challenge you can use them for. So you can see this one is blue. Some are double colored, like this is a red and a blue card right here. This is green and red. And then you have to correlate that to the challenges that are out here on the board or around this character here on your set of cards. So you can only use a green card, say, if you want to go after a green challenge. And what you're trying to do is get to a certain number to beat that particular challenge. Like you can see here, this is the Crystal Caves. It has that big 7 up there in the corner. If we get a total of 7 or above on that, then we defeat that challenge. If we don't, then we fail the challenge and suffer the negative consequences that'll happen at the end of the turn. So what you're going to do is choose one of these cards to play as a main card, and then you can boost it up to 2 times as well. So I think for this one, we'll try to go after that great stag there, and we'll play Tireless, which will give us a value of 3, and then we'll also boost the card as well, and that's going to give us a value of 4. Now, the white cards you can use for any particular color, and the boost is down here. So you can see this one, if we wanted to, would boost us 1 on a red action. Some have different colors than the color you can use them to play initially. Like this one is a red, but you can boost with a green or a red, depending on what your main card is. So you can boost up to twice in the solo game, and you can use 2 of your cards to do that. So what I'm going to go ahead and do here is I'm just going to boost with this one, and that'll give us a value of 4. And then I think I will boost one more time, and I'll go ahead and play this one as well. And this is a value of 5. And every card does something different in this game. So it's all about the card synergies and how you can make them work to your advantage. So now that we've played our cards out here, and we've got kind of our 3 cards that we're going with a value of 5. Now you will roll these dice. You have 10 health also to start the game, which is tracked by this 10-sided die. So that's your health, 10 health. If you ever get down to 0 health, you lose the game. And you will roll these dice. And so here you can see we've gotten a green, a red, and a blue, and also this die, which is just bad. That's nothing. This white side is good. That can count for any 3 of the colors. So with that, we've got a total value of 6. Now these are progress tokens. Normally you would put those on the card just to show where you are in the progress of defeating it. But since we've defeated that card, I'm not going to do that for this particular one. So you can see it has positive and negative effects on this challenge. If we were to have failed this challenge, we would have lost 1 health. But because we won this challenge, we get to put this over here in a separate pile, and we get to go down 2 on the well. So you will take 2 of these cards, take them to the bottom, and then flip over another challenge. And then these cards go to your discard pile, and then you'll just do the same thing again. It's a very quick turns and a very quick game. So what you could do on this turn per se is maybe you want to go after the maze, which has a value of 7 here. So maybe you play Guarded Strike, and after you do that, you can draw 2 cards at the end of your turn if you know, no matter whether you're successful or not. And then maybe you decide you're going to go ahead and take this one and boost it by 1, and this one and boost it by 1 as well. So now you would have a value of 5 going after this particular card. So we're trying to roll at least 2 blues, and we've got 2 there. So we've accomplished this card. You can see on this one we get to go down 2 on the well as well. And if we were to have failed this card, we would have to lose 2 cards from our hand. Also, if completed, you would complete all other copies of this in play. If failed, you discard 1 additional card for each other copy of this in play. So all these little challenge cards have different things on them. There's puzzles, there's obstacles, there's traps, there's combats, lots of different things. So we've accomplished this, so we go ahead and get to put that over there. And then again, we draw 2 cards and go down further on that well. And then you would take these cards and put them in your discard pile. But from that 1 card, we get to draw 2 cards and fill up our hand again. So that's basically how the game goes. Those are the turns that you're going to go through. I'm going to show you a few other things here just so you can kind of see how it plays out. There's a combat card there, but again, all these are different. There's a lot of different synergies with all these cards, and they are all kind of unique. So once you learn your player's deck and your character's deck, you'll be able to really use it to your advantage knowing what cards are in there. So you would continue to go through this, and at some point you would run out of cards in your hand. And you've noticed that at the end of my first 2 turns, I didn't draw any cards except for that one that gave us the ability to do so. Well, that's because you don't draw cards at the end of your turn in this game. When you run out of cards, you have to draw what is an exhausted card, and these are bad things. And so this is refilling the board with 1 fewer challenge card. This does not affect the final gauntlet. So this would mean there would only be 3 challenge cards out here instead of 4. There are some other ones as well that are in this deck, including things like if there's ever 3 copies of this card in play at the same time, you lose the game, and some other things as well. So every time that you are out of cards and you're exhausted, you have to draw back up to 8 cards, you have to take one of these cards and place it out in front of you. So that's another way that you could also possibly lose the game. So let's say you've gotten to the bottom of the well. You have gone through all of these challenges, you've defeated all of them, and now you're ready for the final boss, or the big bad, if you will. And in this game, that is called the Well Master and the Final Gauntlet. So when you get to the final gauntlet and you're all done with all these challenges, these all come off. No matter what you have left, as long as you've gotten through this pile of cards, you're good. You will flip this card over, and you can see there is a certain obstacle here that has a very high number on it. You're going to need to do a lot of things to be able to defeat that. You also put these 4 cards out around the big bad here, like so. You'll notice that the edges of this card are basically black, so you cannot do any color on this initially. You're kind of locked out from dealing any damage to this main big bad. But what you will do is you'll go after these 4 side cards, and when you accomplish one, you will flip it over. And so when you flip this one over, you can see now that Vainglory is now vulnerable to red actions. So that means you can now use red cards and red dice on this one. This one is green. And then one of these 2 will be blue. That's kind of the toss-up with this box, is that there's 4 of these. One of these is just a vulnerable to blue actions card, and the other is just a card. So you kind of don't know with the blue which one you're going to get there. So that's what you'll do, and then again, if you get through this, defeat that, have health left, haven't lost, haven't become exhausted, still have some health remaining, all of that, then you accomplish that final boss, and you win the game. There are a couple of different of these cards in the box, these Vainglory cards. There's 3 different ones, so you might have one of 3 different things that pop out here at the end of the game that you're trying to defeat. But overall, that's an overview of Kinfire Delve, Vainglory's Grotto. Games kind of vary in length. Sometimes you might be done in 10 or 15 minutes and lose just because you ran out of health or you didn't play your cards the right way or whatever. And sometimes it might take you about 45 minutes to get to the final gauntlet there and trying to defeat that final boss. So now that I've shown you an overview, let me go back and give you some of my thoughts. Okay, so you've seen an overview of Kinfire Delve, Vainglory's Grotto. Now I'm going to share with you some of my likes and dislikes for this game. My first like is the card quality. I mean, these foil embossed cards are so cool. They definitely catch your eye when you see them just sitting out on a table, and they're a really big standout component for this game. In a game that is mainly card driven, it's very nice to see the cards be such high quality. I mean, both character decks are kind of unique in their card design. All the character cards have that embossment on the back. These are kind kind of hard to tell, but on these kind of final boss cards, the card is actually raised a little bit on the backside of it. So that's a really cool aspect as well. So I really enjoy the card design for this game. I also really like the iconography on the cards. You know, this card in particular is just one as an example. It's very easy to see, okay, I need to get 7 progress. If I succeed, this will happen. If I fail, this will happen. And even though there's different types of cards in this game, combat, there's puzzles, there's traps, there's different things that you are doing, overall, you're doing the same thing kind of every single turn in terms of, okay, this is exactly how much I need to get to defeat this card. You know, some games, and especially some card games, have so many different icons and types of cards, and they all work differently, and that can be a cool thing, but I like for a game that is pretty, you know, simple in terms of what it's doing, to keep the cards simple as well, so you don't have to keep referencing the rule book over and over again to see, okay, what does that icon do, or how do I use this one with that one, or stuff like that. So I really enjoy that design aspect of the cards for this game. I also really like the boost aspect as well. You know, you're able to lay down a card and you could say, okay, I'm going to boost this maybe once, or maybe I'll boost it twice. I could, you know, really make it really powerful, or I can just take my chances on this turn, roll the dice and see what happens. I want to save that card for a future turn, or whatever the case may be. You have a lot of power there, and even though there is dice in this game, it feels like you can mitigate them somewhat. Now, sometimes they can be a little bit punishing, just like any game with dice, but it feels like there's a nice option here to allow yourself to kind of, you know, control the dice as much as you can. Also, another like that I have is it doesn't take up a lot of table space. You know, it's a pretty small box. It's a pretty small setup. You can play this in a lot of different areas, and you don't need a lot of room to be able to knock this one out and get it to the table and get it played, which I think is an important aspect. Also, it's easy to set up and get going. All you have to do is shuffle these well cards, just, you know, pick a character that you want to play with, and then you're basically ready to go. It is very, very simple to get this game set up and get playing it, which is a nice aspect, especially for a solo game, because sometimes solo games in particular, you have to set up a whole bunch of stuff, and it's just as much setup as like a 2 or 3 player game, and then by the time you do all that, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. Do I even want to play this game anymore? Again, that's not the case with this game. Also, the well aspect is cool, how you're kind of diving deeper into the well, and you're taking this big stack of cards, and as the game goes on, it is getting smaller, and it does really feel like you are kind of diving deeper into the well, even with the icon they use on the cards. You know, on this one in particular, again, just to show it, you know, it says, you know, dive basically 3 deeper into the well with the down arrow. And there will be cards too that you will have to go up and place a card back on top of the well if you fail a particular challenge. So it's a very simple thing there, but it does feel like, you know, okay, I'm kind of moving deeper into this well as I go throughout the course of this game. Also, it's good if you want to kind of check out the Kinfire world. You know, if you're interested in Kinfire Chronicles, but maybe you don't want to spend that price tag right up front, you say, okay, I'll get this little $20, you know, small backs kind of card game, see what this is like, see if I enjoy it or not first before I fully invest in this game and maybe in this world and what they're kind of doing here with Incredible Dream Studios. Also, the other nice aspect of this game is that you can take this one, and there's 3 of these at this point. You could kind of mix and match if you want and play characters from other boxes. So that's really cool as well. Also, I do enjoy the core character. I'm going to have more to say on the other character, Asha, in my dislikes, but I think core really works well for solo, and he's a really great character to play with as a solo player. So with that, let's go ahead and move on to my dislikes, and let's start with Asha, the other character in the game. I just feel like she doesn't work as well for the solo game. I've played a couple of games with her solo, and I find myself losing earlier than I do when I play with core. And maybe that's just due to my strategy and how I'm playing the game, and maybe I just need to change some things up to try and be more successful with her. But I feel like core's ability and the fact that he can reduce damage with certain card aspects that he has is very advantageous in the solo game, because you're not having anybody else help you. You know, there's not a player across from the table to kind of say, oh, I have this card, I could play this, and we could kind of bounce off of each other. It's, you know, you're just playing that one character and you're kind of just doing everything yourself. So I think in terms of that aspect of the game, I like core better than I like Asha. But again, maybe if I play with Asha more, I would enjoy that character more. But I think for solo play, core works the best. That's again why I showed him as kind of the character in the overview. Another dislike for me is that this die to track the health is kind of lame. You know, this is a very cool game with a lot of cool components and cool stuff going on, on, and then they just give you this die to track the health. And I know that's a common thing in like RPGs and other, games where you just have a die. But I think, if you had like a dial or a tracker of some sort or just something, it might, or even like a card that you put like a cube on or something. I don't know. I just feel like something would be a little cooler than this. Also, because you're rolling die, you have to kind of make sure that you keep this away from the die that you're rolling. And if it gets bumped or whatever, that can also just kind of mess up your health. But again, that's a minor complaint there. Another dislike is variety might be limited after a bunch of plays. So there's only 2 characters in this box. There's 3 different ones of these Vainglory cards that might have a different, kind of big bad or objective on the back of them. But that's it in this particular box. So if you play this a bunch, if you play this, 20, 30 times, then maybe by that point you would get to a spot where you say, okay, I feel like I've explored everything this game has to offer. And that's a fair point, but this also isn't that expensive of a game either. But I could see if you really wanted to get a ton out of this, I could feel like if you play the 2 characters a bunch and if you get to know their decks a bunch and the villains don't really vary up that much, and this well deck too is kind of the same thing, although you are getting rid of cards as the game goes on, so you're not going to see every card every game, but still I can see that's a valid complaint there with the variety and just something that I thought of. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but I could see again if I played this a bunch, I may be like, I feel like I've explored everything that game has to offer. So overall, a really enjoyable solo game, a really nice quick solo experience. Didn't talk about that in the likes, but the playtime is really nice as well. If you're doing well, it's going to take longer. If you're not doing well, you're going to fail pretty quickly, and then you can just reset it fast and go on to another game. So overall, I really enjoy this as a nice solo card game. If you want to check this one out, again, this is Kinfire Delve, Vainglory's Grotto. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. That really helps out the channel. Until next time, I'm Jared. You've been checking out Specifically Solo.